Now, Sunday, March the 8th, MLS is back in action on ESPN. We'll have Kaká, we'll have Breck Shea, we'll have the brand new Orlando City FC against another new team, NYC FC, Mix Discarode and David Villa, the storied Spanish striker. What an opening day that will be. Do hope you can join us. Sunday, March the 8th, 4:30 Eastern on ESPN2 as we look down on high. The United States looking down on Panama at the moment. They lead by 2-0. Adrian Healy and Taylor Twellman with you here at the booth. I tell you could almost feel the relief flooding around the StubHub Center in that first 45 minutes.
No doubt about it. And as we go into this highlight package, there's a little bit of the good and a little bit of the bad here. And we'll start with the bad because we came in talking about DeAndre Yedlin and Breck Shea. And here's a very good example of what I'm talking about on the defensive side of things for DeAndre Yedlin. It's having an awareness, an understanding of what's around him on the defensive side of things. If not for Nick Rimondo's recognition here, that ball may end up in the back of the net from Eric Davis. Michael Bradley, two dangerous corners early on. This is the second one. Look at the numbers in front of Jaime Pinedo. That's a nightmare for any goalkeeper. That ends up in the back of the net. And then we talked a lot about the evolution of Giazzi Zardes. You win possession, but now it's the recognition. I've got Clint Dempsey, Josie Altidore. How can I take a couple touches to get these two involved and in a dangerous spot? Good recognition of where to go, better ball forward, and allow your goal scorers like Clint Dempsey to finish plays off. Well done from the young kid, Giazzi Zardes.
And we are joined by national team coach Jurgen Klinsmann right now. Jurgen, the scoreline looks great for US soccer fans. Give us your assessment of the performance, though, in the first 45 minutes.
Well, I think the guys are doing very well. I mean, they try to implement what we worked on the last 3.5 weeks. Sometimes it's not easy to get in a flow. We told them to constantly try to play 1-2 touches out of the back to get the people involved on the wings. So kind of 20-25 minutes into the game, that's worked out better and better. And hopefully we can add another goal now to close things down.
Jurgen, were you pleased with the young kids, Miguel Ibarra and Giazzi Zardes, excuse me, in the first half?
Yeah, absolutely. I think they confirmed what they showed us the last four weeks here in camp. You know, they are hungry, they want to do well, they want to take people on, they take risks, and hopefully they can add a couple of more of those sequences in the second half.
Thanks very much for joining us, Jurgen. Good luck.
Thank you.
That's Jurgen Klinsmann, who is going to make some changes at the start of this second half. We're going to see Chris Wondolowski come on. He's going to replace Josie Altidore. There's also going to be a change in goal for the US. Sean Johnson is going to come on for Nick Rimando. First of all, a change for Panama. Murillo placing Valle. That's Edgar Murillo. Switch at left back. Jairo Glaze is coming on too. Sean Johnson is going to be given the second half in goal, replacing Nick Rimando. It'll be his first appearance since the Gold Cup in 2013. The Chicago Fire keeper. Chris Wondolowski, of course, scored twice here in the US's 2-0 win against South Korea in the corresponding game last year that came at the end of the January camp. Johnson is going to be earning his 5th cap. Spent a bit of time training with Hull City of the English Premier League in the off-season. So away we go. Will it be more of the same for the US? And going from left to right. US trying to hold this slide of 5 games without a win, remember. Well placed to do so. They close out the deal here. They haven't lost 6 or gone 6 games in a row without a win since the post-1998 World Cup period. 98-99, in fact, was the last time they went 6 without a win. hearing a little soreness in the hamstring for Josie Altidore, so a precautionary removal of Altidore, the official reason. Here's Glaze, one of the substitutes.
When he's come in to play left midfield, Eric Davis has moved back to play left back.
Annabelle Godoy. And this is Davis venturing forth in that left back position. Not a bad ball either for Murillo, half-time substitute. That's Perez, who had that woeful miss. Opportunity that could have brought Panama back into the game. Clever work from Godoy. And then ambitious with the attempt from downtown. The US have had the better of things generally against Panama historically. 11 wins, only 1 defeat. The only time they've lost to the Canal Men was the Gold Cup in 2011. That was the tournament that was Bob Bradley's swan song. And that's that game in Tampa. Panama bidding to become what's the rivals to Costa Rica in terms of Central American powers. Pinedo, you mentioned how good he was in the playoffs for the LA Galaxy. Only 1 goal conceded at home for Pinedo in 4 playoff games over 2 seasons. It was an MLS Cup to Chris Tierney. Here's DeAndre Yedlin on the ball. Nice sharp combination with Zardes, but it is going to be a US corner. You mentioned Yedlin, Taylor, as perhaps the most important player for the US in the first half. Why?
Well, I think his development over the next 3 years is so important, and actually the most important for Jurgen Klinsmann, because if he becomes a true world-class fullback at the international level, it now gives Jurgen Klinsmann, now he can do something with Fabian Johnson.
Here's Bradley. A different shape to this corner. Opposite side, it was a very different end result too. Discarud. He was thinking momentarily about a shot there. Bradley delivers the cross. A swing from Zardes. Well, Zardes didn't connect. It squirmed back in his direction for the foot of Clint Dempsey. Already has his first assist in the national team jersey. Cassie Zardes, who scored here 2 months ago, helping the Galaxy beat the Revolution in MLS Cup.
Because, Adrian, think about Russia 3.5 years down the road. If Yedlin is playing at Tottenham regularly and becoming an international fullback, now it gives Jurgen the wherewithal to say, you know what, maybe I'm going to play Fabian wide left, wide right, and use him going forward the way he was very good at the World Cup in Brazil.
He used those 115 minutes to the maximum, didn't he? The World Cup. And settled down to a new life with a new team in North London with Spurs. Only spent about 10 days there before being called back across the pond to this camp. Here's Ibarra. Bradley and Dempsey. Ibarra as Manana applying the sharp point of the attacking dagger and applying it a little bit too much with the tackle. Well, those minutes for the US last summer put him in some pretty rarefied company, didn't he?
just imagine the tutor that Steve Cherundolo would have been if Steve Cherundolo didn't have to retire young, and you could have had DeAndre Yedlin for the last 6 to 8 months of 2014 follow a Cherundolo and have that understanding of how to play that right back position.
It was Blackburn nudging Jones to the ground.
And we saw Steve Cherundolo in Ireland sitting on the bench, and today Carlos Bocanegra has been a big part of this January camp, and I think Carlos Bocanegra could be a huge asset for Jermaine Jones as he gets older and goes through the process of being a center back.
Yeah, it's a really good point. Bocanegra invited into a coaching role in this January camp. The man who just retired at the end of last season. Was the immediate target for the United States, the Gold Cup this summer in July, but they have quite the path ahead of them before they reach that point, Taylor. They've got some big friendlies. It's big name European opponents coming up down the road, and of course a home game against Mexico too. They've already sold over 50,000 tickets for that game in San Antonio in April.
But isn't that what you want? I mean, I said this the other night after the Chile game. I'd rather play Chile 10 times in a World Cup cycle, with all due respect, than playing the CONCACAF teams. We've already established that we can get through CONCACAF on a regular basis. If we're going to try to catch those teams in a World Cup, the Chiles, the Belgiums, you need to play them as often as you can.
As you see, unbeaten in 19 consecutive home games against CONCACAF opponents are the US. This is Dempsey now. One more goal in the second half would surely make safe that particular streak continuing. Yedlin on the move. Good looking cross, Dempsey. Well, the two former Seattle teammates close to linking up.
Well, and we're seeing some confusion when this ball's in the midfield and it gets forward. This is where Jurgen Klinsmann's talking about the Michael Bradley mixed disc route, because both players want to go forward. So over the next 12 to 14 months, the understanding between Diskerud and Bradley has to happen. And now we're 54 minutes into the game. We see Yedlin get forward. And that's the reason why he was so promising at the World Cup and now ultimately at Tottenham. Great ball in from Yedlin.
That's a useful move by Edgar Murillo on the far side for Panama. Bradley doing the chasing and harrying, closing down the space. It's Perez, who has scored at this stadium before. He actually scored here back in September for FC Dallas as they lost 2-1 to the Galaxy. Aerial coverage provided by DirecTV. If you call yourself a sports fan, you've got to get DirecTV. Temperature in the low 70s here this afternoon. As the US men's national team are back in Southern California for the first time in a year. It's a big moment for this young man now. We talked about the United States players making debuts, but Ismael Diaz is going to come on for Panama. He's all of 17 years old. He was part of the under-20 squad last month in Jamaica and was the top scorer for Panama. 4 goals in that group stage.
He's also been training in Europe, right?
Yeah, training in Holland with PSV. Ricardo Buitrago is going to replace Perez. Not such a great outing for Super Raton today. Had his big opportunity, didn't he, in the first half? Well, it was almost handed to him. Wondolowski. Harold Cummings Able to nick it away. Cummins, who plays in Colombia with Santa Fe. Zardes. Beasler back to Johnson. He'll be heading into his 6th year with the Chicago Fire, Sean Johnson.
And a big year at that. You know, you think of contract situations and how the makeup of a roster is looking. John Bush is now in Chicago Fire. You wonder maybe if Frank Yallop and that staff are looking at if Sean Johnson gets an offer from Europe, maybe this summer we'll see him move on to Europe.
Yeah, they've been one of the busier teams, haven't they, the off-season, the Chicago Fire. Frank Yallop pulling all sorts of moves and trades. Some new arrivals. That's going to be one of the themes for the 20th season of MLS, which is upcoming. There's so many sparkling new arrivals spread throughout the league. Colorado have signed a second DP. Bruce Arena, of course, has made his big move. Steven Gerrard will be wearing the number 8 for him come the summer.
He never looks flustered, does he?
Well, would you look flustered if you had Robbie Keane and Steven Gerrard?
And Giazzi Zardes at age 23? No. Yeah. And Omar Gonzalez?
Nothing much to worry about. And hey, he just came back from the White House, didn't he? The LA Galaxy were there meeting Barack Obama last week.
Plus, this stadium's going through a little bit of a renovation, as you can see. They're putting in the largest video board in MLS.
Yeah, that's not it. That's the temporary one you're looking at. There it is. That's where it's going to be.
I'm not in charge of the cameras, everyone. $15 million being put into the stadium now that Chivas USA is out of it. And credit to Chris Klein and the LA Galaxy. This place will be something special.
Well, of course, they only have another 2 years as the only show in town, don't they? For LAFC, if they are going to be called that. Commence operations. Panama looking for a route back into the game here. Dempsey, he's got room. Wondolowski ahead of him. Dempsey brought down from behind. Easy decision for referee Henry Bejarano from Costa Rica. A booking for Godoy, who was actually sent off in Panama's last friendly. It was a goalless draw against Canada.
But this is why Jurgen Klinsmann wants Clint Dempsey not to be your traditional 4-4-2 and stand up front next to the other center forward. He wants him underneath, because then in transition, he can find those pockets of space and run at the back four. Good spot from Clint Dempsey.
Dempsey, who is already second top scorer in US history coming in, becoming just the second man to reach the 40-goal mark here this afternoon. I wonder if he can catch Landon Donovan's all-time record. He's still got plenty of gas left in the tank, you would imagine. Here's Bradley. Jones is wide open! Well, a header planted either side of Pinedo would surely have been goal number 3 there for the U.S.
An absolute horrendous marking from Panama here. You know Giazzi Zardes, Chris Wondolowski, and Jermaine Jones are going to try to get on the end of it. My goodness.
Jermaine Jones winning his 50th cap for the U.S. this afternoon. He's only scored 3 times in those 50 appearances, but of course the last one was really something special, wasn't it? Never to be forgotten strike against Portugal at the World Cup. Tidy work from Ibarra.
And we've seen that today from him. How often through the last 3 days of training, Klinsmann's talking about 2 ways. Miguel Ibarra has put in the work on both sides of the ball.
Well, he told us yesterday, didn't he, about Ibarra. We're curious to see how far he can take it. He's got an engine almost like nobody else. He said almost impossible to get Ibarra tired. Plays up there with Minnesota United in the ESL.
Klinsman made it a point to say Ibarra was quote-unquote fit.
Yeah.
Didn't he?
And Breck Shea not fit to continue, thanks to the referee's whistle there. And Judge Paris to have been fouled. Going to see another switch and another member of the U20 squad that was so successful in Jamaica last month coming on to get his national team debut. This is an 18-year-old this time. Luis Pereira is going to come on. He was the player of the tournament for Panama. It's Rolando Blackbird who's going to make way. So both the starting strikers have gone for the Canal men. Pereira, very special talent, still plays domestically with Arabe Unido in Panama. Dink over the top, has Wondolowski on his way. Good cut back for Dempsey, who drives on. Didn't get past the last man, Harold Cummings. Davis leading the sortie forward. Shea, he lost that momentarily in the sun, was able to recover. Breck Shea, who got on the score sheet last week against Chile. Might not have been the right result for the US, but they got the right goal scorers, didn't they, with Breck Shea and Josie Altidore, two players who only needed a goal. ESPN FC is the place to go, our studio show that brings you comprehensive coverage from soccer all around the globe. Tonight, our hour-long show starts at 10:30. That's on ESPN2, the place to go for really a complete picture and wrap-up of the weekend.
Well, we're past the 60th minute.
Yep.
This is where the topic of discussion started after Chile a couple nights ago.
It has been the witching hour of late, hasn't it, for the US? They conceded 9 goals and scored none from this point on in recent games. Now, Taylor, I think it's fair to point out that all those games are friendlies, and it's often when switches of personnel and tactics are made. And Wondolowski is not holding back here, squaring up with Lionel Paris. Translation, Taylor?
Defenders hate when forwards are just kicking at your heels trying to win the ball. That's all I got for you.
Spoken like someone who was guilty of that on many occasions.
Well, forwards get kicked for 90 minutes. The least you could do is kick a defender back here or there.
Well, Lionel Paris took exception to it, didn't he? Chris Wondolowski, of course, will have his original MLS coach to play for in San Jose with Dominic Kinnear. The man who actually traded him away and really sort of ignited his career in doing so. He could play in a brand new building as well in San Jose. Here's the cross. Sean Johnson thought about coming for that. It found its way through to Pereira. And it was Yedlin who stemmed the flow. 20 minutes into the second half, as we were at half-time. The Bradley and Dempsey goals separating the teams. Giassi Zardes has been one of the stars of the show for the US. Bradley. Here's Beasler. Beasler, who picked up a very nice assist in the loss against Chile. Chipped ball over the top for Shea to dispatch with aplomb. Michael Bradley with some midfield manoeuvres. Now Jermaine Jones still has that attacking instinct, and via Clint Dempsey finds Breck Shea. In it comes Wondolowski, and again. And he just can't tee it up for the waiting Ibarra. Swing and a miss initially from Chris Wondolowski, and he stayed with it. And they build again now, the US, with Zardes. Asking a lot of Yedlin with that ball. Yedlin responds. Was caught actually as he delivered that cross. The US are going to get a free kick. And now Wondolowski squaring up to Paris again. The two of those resuming hostilities. Jaime Pinedo trying to step in and act as peacemaker. The referee is across attending to DeAndre Yedlin. He didn't see whatever happened there, but we did. This is what happened. It's been a chippy undercurrent, hasn't there, to this game? We've seen Dempsey get tangled up with Ovalle in the first half. Wondo and Paris going at it for the second time.
And I've been critical of Breck Shea throughout his career for the final product, because he gets in these moments time and time again, and you're left shaking in your head. This is much better from Breck Shea. You have to give both your center forwards an opportunity to get on the end of it. It's a ball in behind with pace, and it allows Dempsey or Wondolowski to get on the end of it. Much better from Breck Shea in that moment.
Wondolowski skewing the first effort, but trying to tee it up. Second time of asking. Wondo, who scored twice here in the win in this equivalent game last year against South Korea.
Throughout his career, you see Breck Shea in those moments try to hit the perfect ball that's whipped with pace in the air, but at times it's just picking up your head and giving your players around you an opportunity to do what they're due at the best. And that's Dempsey and Wondolowski get on the end of it. That's a better ball from Breck Shea.
Breck Shea back in MLS with Orlando. We'll see him on opening day against NYCFC. Of course, he reached MLS Cup 2010 with FC Dallas. Had a breakout year for them the following year. He made an MLS best 11. And then went off on a European sojourn, Breck Shea, that really didn't work out. Nice smile on the face of Wondo.
And it looks like Yedlin's done for the day. Perry Kitchen coming off the bench. Yedlin having a tough time walking to the sideline.
Yeah, the US never actually got the free kick I thought was coming their way after that challenge on Yedlin, who was walking very gingerly towards the locker room. Had some pain to endure a week ago, didn't he, as a big Seattle Seahawks fan, DeAndre Yedlin. So watched that game with Clint Dempsey and Josie Altidore. Watched it at his mum's last year back in Seattle. Rather different outcome 12 months on, as Perry Kitchen looks like he is going to check in to win his first cap. defender going down. So we're going to get our first pure debutant of the day. In fact, we're going to get two of them, because we're going to see Perry Kitchen and Matt Hedges of FC Dallas come on. Kitchen coming on for Diskerud, presumably to slot into a defensive midfield role that he's played for DC United. Can play there or as a centre-back. And Matt Hedges, late call-up to this January squad. Can he stake a claim to be in the mix in the centre-back pool? He's been one of the most consistent defenders, for my money, in MLS the last 3 years.
I think a big part, Adrian, excuse me, of FC Dallas's success is Matt Hedges. I think 2014 was his career year for him, and rightfully so. He deserves to be in this camp and an opportunity.
On the right-hand side, initially at least, replacing Yedlin. Shea on the rampage, not going to catch up to it though. Yedlin departing. Of course, he'll be on his way back to North London to continue his training with Spurs. US soccer fans everywhere will be very intrigued to see what Kitchen and Hedges could do here. There is Perry Kitchen, who's been such a bedrock for DC United for the last 4 years. And again, has that versatility, doesn't he, Taylor? Midfield or defence. Much in the centre of the park for Ben Olsen.
But when I see Perry Kitchen, I want to remind everyone of how big of a year 2015 is for Olympic qualifying, because we saw Perry Kitchen and that group of players not get the job done in qualifying. That's a huge part at the end of 2015 for the development of young players for Jurgen Klinsmann.
And it was part of the formula for this camp, wasn't it? Called in a lot of the players who will be age eligible.
Well, and what did he say? He said he thought he learned from the last go-around that it was unfair to Caleb Porter and how little time he got. So now he's given Andreas Herzog as much time as he needs.
The qualifying tournament will be in the fall for the US under-23 side, hoping to make it to Rio next summer. Still, as it was at half-time for Jurgen Klinsmann, and there is Herzog away on his left-hand side. As we look, given the reins for the under-23 team. Tab Ramos and the U20s, of course, recently qualified for the under-20 World Cup in New Zealand. Corner kick for Panama, earned by Yarrow Glaze. Swung in, and Dempsey is always guarding that near post area. Will the US's defensive mettle be tested late on again, as it has been? Well, there's been a trend in recent games. Here's Kitchen. Ibarra wants it, and Kitchen spotted him. A little unlucky with the ball there, Perry Kitchen. Just skipped off the surface. Ibarra couldn't reach it.
Well, and you're talking about the second half collapses. This is the leadership Jurgen Klinsmann's talking about. 10 of the last 17 goals the United States have given up is after the 75th minute. So we can talk all about the winless streak in the last 5, 1 win in the last 9. It's on the players' minds as much as it is on people on Twitter and the fans. And Jurgen Klinsmann, Clint Dempsey, showing some leadership there.
Well, they've stopped the bleeding for sure. They had conceded 9 goals in 3 games coming into today. The US was the most in any 3-game span since 1993.
Well, you always have to keep it in perspective, though, with regarding results and friendlies, because everyone wants to criticize a head coach and the manager for seeing young players. Well, how are you going to do that? Second half substitutes. So in friendlies, you're going to have mistakes because you're trying to see young players, and it completely changes the rhythm of a game when you bring on 6 substitutions.
Well, they have made these friendlies a chance to give 8 players their first caps over the last 6 games. The US, the likes of Joe Zhao and Emerson Hyman debuted in September, Miguel Ibarra back in October, Rubio Rubin and Jordan Morris in November. And then, of course, Birnbaum, Trapp and Zardes last time out against Chile. And as you said, Taylor, a lot of those moves made late on in games has resulted in this particular statistic, which looks set to change here unless Panama have a nasty surprise in store. No sign of it, to be honest, is there? As the tempo of this game has slowed quite dramatically. And Hernan Dario Gomez has removed all his frontline strikers. Give players like this an opportunity. Pereira. And Diaz, the 17-year-old. Well, Miguel Ibarra's journey, his first start with the US, is going to come to an end. Someone we'll see more of. First modern player from the NESL to play for the United States national team. Hey, many in Minnesota think there could be another in Christian Ramirez, but Ibarra makes way now for Lee Win. Someone who just had a year to remember last year. MVP candidate he was in MLS. Win, who came back into the national team fold after an absence of 7.5 years.
Well, 20 goals in all competitions for the New England Revolution. No doubt it was a memorable year, but I think if you ask Lee Win, there's a bad taste in his mouth for his performance in MLS Cup.
Yeah, the Revs feel they didn't do themselves fully justice in that game. Is that fair to say? They took it into extra time. There's Chris Tierney's goal, taking LA all the way.
But how technically gifted Lee Win is, and particularly in tight spaces, you just hope he gets his fair look over the next 18 to 24 months with Jurgen Klinsmann.
Clint Dempsey hands off the armband, and he has this memento to take with him. Goal number 40 for Deuce in a US national team shirt.
Well, his first recognition is try to give Giazzi Zardes the space to work in behind, but then it's just what Clint Dempsey has done his entire career, is get in those moments, make a move, and put the ball in the back of the net.
Lewis Gill comes on as his replacement. And that tries to pick up where he left off in this game last year. Gill came on for what was 16 minutes as Zardes goes down under some duress, and now it's Zardes' turn to be on the end of a little disagreement, shall we say. Jermaine Jones, Lee Win's Revolution teammate, but Win is picked off, and now Godoy can try and move forward. Johnson out to claim. inside the final 10 minutes. US within touching distance of something they haven't experienced since September, a win. Went to the Czech Republic in that first game post-World Cup and got a great result. Let's not forget that, 1-0 win there in September. Alejandro Bedoya with the goal. Haven't won since. Gill. Good trickery and footwork from Gill, but he eventually ran out of real estate. And he's a player trying to perhaps hit the reset button. A slight dip last year, Taylor, after a great 2013 under Jason Kreis.
Yeah, I think he went through some moments maybe off the field. He bought a house, you know, moved in with his girlfriend. I think there were some things, obviously, with the change of Jeff Cassar taking over Real Salt Lake, but I think he has to have a huge year for Real Salt Lake and ultimately Andres Herzog in Olympic qualifying.
Yep. Been with RSL since he was 16. Grew up not far from here, Garden Grove, California. Pass picked off by Godoy. Butrago. With some slinky footwork. Enough to draw a foul. This one of only 2 home friendlies for the US before the Gold Cup starts in July. They'll be in Europe a lot. Some challenges awaiting as well, the likes of Denmark and Switzerland, and then Holland and Germany coming up in June. The only home game at the Alamo Dome, I should say, in San Antonio in April against Mexico. Confirmation of what lies ahead for Jurgen Klinsmann and his team, all leading up to July the 7th, of course, in the CONCACAF Gold Cup. 53,000, by the way, already sold for April the 15th, the game against Mexico. US women in St. Louis, Taylor. So do you know well, 28,000 sold for that game against New Zealand.
You say that like you're surprised. Little over 20,000 here. But you look at that schedule, Adrian, listen, the performance today is solid enough, and hopefully the shutout continues and you get it at the end, but I don't think that should stop the discussion that was brought to the attention from Jurgen Klinsmann.
Right.
Whether it's the fitness culture in this country where he believes in his eyes the soccer culture doesn't have what the NFL, the NBA, and the NHL and those leagues have. I think that discussion needs to continue in order to, one, get some answers from this team, but also to get more of a connection from Jurgen Klinsmann and the rest of U.S. soccer's community.
He loves starting conversations, doesn't he? Doesn't necessarily always want to finish them, but certainly one to provoke debate.
But when you're in your second 4-year tenure, you have to give answers then.
Yeah.
It's very difficult for a national team manager to then keep everyone under. That's why I've always said it's difficult to go through 8 years, because at times things are going to get stale. At some point in the next 3 years, you hope Jurgen Klinsmann gives some answers to what he's talking about.
Well, and I think that's where US soccer fans perhaps are most quizzical, aren't they? Does he have a clear picture of the path forward? And if he does, is it the right one? And can he and his players implement it, leading towards Russia? Now then, problems here for a stretched defence momentarily. Zardes and Johnson back to marshal the situations. This is how it's progressed for Jurgen since he took over in August of 2011. Only 2 wins, remember, in that first calendar year. But then 2013 was his big year for wins, 16 of them. But of course, the big achievement let's not forget, was 2014, and getting the US out of the group of death. Let's not diminish that achievement 6 months on. And it's funny, Taylor, I think that achievement sometimes gets more recognition in other corners of the globe than it does here, because I think people around the world look at that and say, listen, the US punched way above their weight in doing that.
Yes, however, I'm not one to overrate it because the end product is still there.
Right, right.
It's one thing to get out of your group, but it's the next game. Can you get to the quarterfinal? Then can you get to the semifinal? I'm not trying to diminish the group of death, but what I am trying to say is the end product's still the same. You're going home after the game, after
first knockout round. Yep, same as 2010. And clearly, this is a time for experimentation, and you feel that Klinsmann has kind of been reaching for a few little formulas, seeing what works. The three-man back line, I think, quite clearly didn't the other night against Chile, and was pretty quickly abandoned. The four-man back line, Taylor, what was your verdict on what we saw from them today?
Well, I think Matt Besler and Jermaine Jones look more comfortable, because naturally that's where both are comfortable having players next to them and whatnot. But the question still remains for me, at the international level against the quality opponents, can Breck Shea and DeAndre Yedlin defend?
Well, can they defend Giassi Zardes is the question being asked of Panama. Zardes' cross is behind any intended targets.
But if you're asking me if it should be a three-back or a four-back, I don't see any reason why the United States should not play four in the back.
And is Jermaine Jones going to wholeheartedly embrace this role that's been offered him? I know you've expressed concerns at times, Taylor, about his willingness to... He still has that instinct, doesn't he? He wants to get forward, be involved as a playmaker at times. And is that going to be an instinct that goes away as a centre-back?
You're asking the question, and so is Jurgen Klinsmann.
Pretty much a faultless display today for Jones. Besler, of course, had that one slip at the first half, but that was hardly his fault. The rocket pass from Nick Rimando.
Well, and I think center back over the next 24 to 28 months is going to be a very interesting competition.
You know he's very high on John Anthony Brooks, isn't he? And you mentioned the 17-year-old kid to us yesterday, Taylor, as well, Cameron Carter-Vickers, who's in the Spurs system. Said if Carter-Vickers hadn't played for the U20s last month, he may well have been here, may well have been playing.
Well, and he always brings up Michael Orozco. You look right now, Matt Besler playing another 90 minutes today. Who's going to be the Matt Besler of this cycle? Is it going to be Steve Birnbaum?
Yep.
Could it be a Matt Hedges? You know, if you would have told me at this part of the last World Cup cycle that Matt Besler was going to be the starting center back of the World Cup, I would have told you were nuts. So a lot can happen over the next 2 years where players are going to come out of nowhere that right now they're not even on the radar.
Yeah, Jeff Cameron emerged from a January camp, didn't he, 3 years ago, as did Graham Zusi. 3 minutes of stoppage time. The US seemingly about to get back into the win column. We'll be back with you for the start of the 20th season of MLS. Sunday, March the 8th is when we will kick off, and what a delicious prospect we have for you on our opening day. 2 new franchises, Orlando City and NYC FC. That's Sunday, March the 8th, 4:30 Eastern on ESPN2.
Hashtag fill the bowl.
Yes.
The goal, 60,000.
The Citrus Bowl will be Orlando's home for this first season when they build their new stadium. NYC FC, by the way, Taylor, are going to play their first official game on Tuesday. They're training over at Manchester City's facility at the moment. They're going to play St. Mirren there on Tuesday as Jermaine Jones slides in. Well, the flag is up on the far side, and the referee finally spots it.
I'd be remiss, though, if I don't remind everyone that that MLS season is still in limbo.
I was going to say, ... we hope to be with you on March the 8th. What's your take, before we get to that, Sports Centre coming up next, Manchester United with a late goal, concern for the Clippers without Blake, and remembering Dean Smith, all coming up as soon as we are off the air. But let's get your take on the labour agreement, the CBA negotiations that are ongoing at the moment between the players and the league.
Well, you're getting all the tweets and all the statements from the players. It's February 8th. Obviously, as it gets closer, that unity among the players will be very telling to how tight they are. But if Don Garber wants this league to grow and be a top 10 league in the world, then at some point free agency has to come into equation. Not full-blown free agency, if you ask me, but at some point as this league grows, these players, especially if you continue, Adrian, to have a salary cap.
Yeah.
If you continue to have a salary cap, it's not like the player making 75 grand is going to all of a sudden make 500 grand a year. But at least that player should have a say, especially if he's been in the league for 4 or 5 years, where he wants to play and move his family. I'd like to see it, because I think as a whole, it brings accountability, responsibility, general managers, sporting directors, technical directors. I hope free agency is in MLS at some point.
We hope to be with you on March the 8th. What we have been able to bring you is the United States returning to the win column. Jurgen Klinsmann getting what he and his side rather badly needed. Steadying the ship, calming some nerves. 2 goals in the first half provided the perfect platform, and then it was just a process of consolidation in the second. It never really looked in much doubt once Clint Dempsey had given them the lead. We will have an edition of Boot Room coming up on ESPNFC.com. Sports Centre following us as soon as we're done here. United States beating Panama by 2-0.
So now, since the World Cup, 10 different U.S. national players have gotten their first cap. 2 more today as Perry Kitchen and Matt Hedges of MLS got their initial caps. Bradley and Dempsey, the goal scorers in the first half. U.S. 2, Panama 0. Back with Casey Keller, Bob Lee here in the studio. So, all the talk of fitness, it was a result.
Yes, exactly. Nothing changes. It was a case where you beat a team you should have beaten at home. Michael Bradley got the first goal. Clint Dempsey got the next goal. Jazzy's artist broke into the team, did some good things. Looked good. But at the same time, if they lost this game, it wouldn't have mattered. It just gave more ammunition for people to come over the top. But at the end of a January camp, Jurgen Klinsmann sees a few more players that he thinks might help him down the line.
But he had more established players in this one because they're in MLS than he might have had in a normal January camp. We'll be back. Boot Room Extra on ESPN3.com coming up. Sports Center, all the news on the passing of Dean Smith coming at you right now.